On today's episode of the Wild Party Podcast, I'm joined by Sara Rubens, founder of Seed to Sanctuary, a garden coaching business that's transforming backyards and lives across North Carolina. What started as a pandemic hobby quickly blossomed into a full-fledged mission to help others live more sustainably by growing their own food. Sara shares how she went from corporate America to coaching clients in edible gardening and offering hands-on support through a unique subscription-based model. We talk about the power of personalized garden design, her decision to scale without sacrificing quality of life, and what it takes to turn a small plot of land into a productive, beautiful sanctuary. You'll also hear practical gardening tips and how a single tomato plant might just change your relationship with food. Let's get the party started. Welcome to the Wild Party Podcast, where we celebrate the visionaries behind vegan, ethical, and sustainable business. In each episode, we'll dive deep into their journeys, uncovering the why behind their mission-driven business. I'm your host, Stephanie Lahart. Tune in with me for passionate discussions about overcoming challenges, innovative marketing strategies, and the power of using business as a force for good. So whether you're an entrepreneur seeking guidance or a conscious consumer wanting to support impactful brands, join us as we explore the stories behind the businesses that are changing the world for the better. Let's get the party started. Today, I am delighted to welcome Sara Rubens to the podcast. Sara is the founder of Seed to Sanctuary, a kitchen garden design company based in North Carolina that helps people transform their outdoor spaces into thriving, sustainable food gardens. I mean, she has literally turned her backyard hobby into a full-blown mission to change how we live, eat, and connect with the earth, and has made it a business. I cannot wait to hear how you did this, Sara. I am a home gardener myself. You will have to give me some tips by the end of this, but welcome to the show.
Oh gosh, Stephanie, thank you so much. I cannot tell you how excited I am to be here to share my garden wisdom with people, but also my fun journey about how I pivoted to do, like you said, to take my passion and turn it into a business. And I'm honored and delighted to share it with you.
Thank you so much. So I'll just ask you the first question is this, because I have this experience in my life. When you tell people I garden, or I don't know, that you've managed to keep a plant alive, do you get one of two reactions? The people that sit there and say, "Oh, I also garden," or then you get the face of the people that say, "Oh my God, I kill everything."
Oh, yes. If I had a dime for every time somebody said to me, I have a black thumb, I could have retired a long time ago. There's no such thing as a person who can't learn how to garden. You know what? Our world and Mother Nature has set it up to succeed. You just need a coach, just like anything. Swimming, tennis, running, life, business. You just need a coach. And so I just coach people on how to be successful.
You're exactly right. And of course, now with the internet and YouTube and everything, there's a million tutorials and everything, but they only take you so far, which I know personally. Like I said, I am a home gardener. I'm actually growing tomatoes for the first time in many years. So we will get into all that. But first, I really want to find out how this journey started for you. So I know you were working in corporate America, and then during the pandemic, as you were gardening and people were baking sourdough and the world was changing, you decided, you know what? I think that this might be something I'd like to spend more time on. I mean, literally, my dream is to move to the forest and just have a garden and just, be a woodsy person. And you have done that dream for me. So tell me, how did that journey start for you, where you decided, I think that there might be a business idea in here for me?
Oh, that's such a great question, Stephanie, because I absolutely know exactly when I pivoted from, oh my goodness, people might actually pay me for this information. So I'm sure you've heard this 1,000 times as we all of us survivors of the pandemic and being closed up in our homes and so forth. I started my business. I started my hobby when we were all locked up. I was already working in corporate America, as I mentioned. I had already been working from home for many, many years. So the fact that I was stuck at home wasn't really all that unusual. But what was unusual is I didn't have anything else to do other than work. And I thought, well, I cannot do that all the time. I've got to have something else to do. And what's interesting is as a mother of now grown children and working and having a husband that traveled, and I was just busy and I never really had a hobby. I mean, people would say to me, Sarah, what do you like to do? Or tell me about yourself. And I'm like, let's see, I'm married, I'm a mother, I work, I just didn't have an answer. And so I decided, when we were stuck at home, that we had just recently moved into a house that had a nice little spot in the backyard with some sun. And I thought, well, I'm going to just kind of dabble in gardening. And so, like anybody, I went to the internet and just started doing some research. And lo and behold, I found an online community there's tons of online communities of gardeners, but I just happened to find one that really resonated with me and took one of her online classes, and it's called Gardenary, is what it is. And I took one of her online classes, and then I built my own garden exactly to her specifications, like step by step by step. What did she do? Because again, I had nothing but time on my hands. And so, what do we do when we are excited about something, that we've done something that we're proud of? We, lo and behold, we post pictures on Instagram. And so I started posting pictures with my garden. And I have to say, my very first garden right out of the gate was beautiful. It was absolutely gorgeous and it was abundant and it was just so joyful. And so complete strangers started reaching out to me saying, "Oh my God, Sarah, I didn't know you know how to garden. Will you teach me?" And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is a joke. I just learned how to garden 10 minutes ago. I mean, I'm a self-taught gardener. I didn't grow up, with my grandparents gardening. My parents didn't garden. And I just was kind of had imposter syndrome, to be honest with you. And one day, an absolute stranger reached out to me and said, "Sarah, I'd be willing to pay you to come over and help me get started." And I turned to my husband and I said, "Geez, I think I can make a business out of doing this." And he's like, "Yeah, but don't quit your day job, okay?" I mean, I created my own job title. I'm like, I'm a garden coach. So long story short is that is really how I started, just in my little community, people asking me for advice, and I charged a nominal fee, and I went. And then the more I went, the more I posted pictures, the more busier I got. And all of a sudden, one day I reached out to a local restaurateur here in the town that I live in, Davidson, North Carolina, which is just outside Charlotte. And they had a piece of their parking lot that was not being used, but it was right next to the restaurant. And I honestly, Stephanie, I'd walked by this little patch of dirt 1,000 times, never thought anything about it. And that one day, it struck me, and I took a picture of it, and I sent a message to the one of the owners of the restaurant, which I happen to know personally. And I said, "Hey, I've got an idea how you should use that little sad piece of dirt." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" So I said, "Come over, meet me in my garden. I want to show you what I'm talking about." He did. He saw my garden and he's like, "Oh my gosh, this is beautiful. How could we do that?" And I said, "I'll do it for you." And he said, "Well, like, is this what you do? Do you have a business doing this?" And right then and there, I said, "Yes, I do. I have a business doing this." And that's how I started my business. I didn't have a business doing it. I didn't even have a company name, but I just put it out there and the stars all aligned. So my very first like legitimate design installation, big time soup to nuts project happened to be right in the downtown middle of our little town. And all of a sudden people noticed it and it in essence put me on the map. That's my story. Isn't that
I love
crazy?
so many things about that story because you basically mapped out the successful entrepreneur story of I found a need, I developed a product to fulfill that need, I reached out to my market, I showed them the proof in my concept and my development, and from then on it's just been like, that's my marketing as well. I mean, you literally just gave a master class in entrepreneurship. Applause all around, Sarah. I love it.
Thank
I
you.
I do always laugh though when people say like I wasn't thinking of a business, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I think we always have these ideas for things that we would like to do, but we have that fear inside of what we're supposed to do. So you mentioned being in the corporate world
Right.
and you probably felt like, "Oh, well that's what you're supposed to do is have a job that is indoors." And that always strikes me as we don't even remember a time before computers. Before we were all like trapped in front of our computers, people did jobs that did not have to do with an office,
I know.
right?
I know. Yeah.
And even though, like, for me, I've had a home office for many years, I find I am sitting in front of staring at a computer screen for up to 5 hours a day. And I'm like, how is that possible? So, like you, I would go out into my own personal garden and do things. So, I have been very trial and error over the years as well. And I love what you said about reaching out for actual coaching, because here's my frustration, which I'm sure you hear from your clients all the time, is you read a tutorial online and then you try to replicate it, or you read about maybe it's in a different part of the country and you think, well, I guess it would work for me here. And it's kind of a disaster because every area is different. We have different,
Absolutely.
humidity, precipitation, pest issues, just lighting issues. I've become a master of the sun. I
Good.
never watched the sun so much before I started planting tomatoes this year, which we
Six
will
to
get
eight
into.
hours. You
So
need 6 to 8 hours of sun for tomatoes.
all right, you know what? I'm going to get into this right now then. Let me tell you this. When I
Okay.
came up with this idea that I was going to plant tomatoes, which was several months ago, I looked at my area where my garden is, and people said 6 to 8 hours of sun. I said, no problem. I didn't realize how much the sun would move between the time of me getting this idea to when I actually plant it. I am going to send you a picture afterwards, Sarah, to show you my planter, which I have to physically keep moving into the sun as my
Oh,
sun is moving because I did not plan well at all.
yeah.
So,
Hey, you know what? You are not the first. I mean, that's just one of the things that number one thing that I do when I go to visit a client is we talk about where's the sun. And sometimes they think that they know exactly where they want to have their garden. And I'll say to them, okay, before we do anything for the next week, I want you to 2 or 3 times during the week for an entire day to go step outside and take a picture of that space every hour. And then we'll see where is the most sun. And they're always surprised. They're always surprised.
oh, for sure, I am too. And I should have done that because I just didn't realize how much the sun was going to move. And that is such great advice. Literally take a picture of your area because our earth is moving. We forget that. It's crazy, right? We're so out of
Well,
touch.
and
But
also in the spring and in the summer, the leaves are off the trees and then they're on the trees. And that is a tremendous difference.
yeah,
Huge.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But that was one of the other things I really loved about your business idea is that you were really helping people to get more in touch with nature and the world around them, which we, are very far removed from, for the reasons I already said. So, for you then, when you were deciding, you personally wanted to do this certification program that you did, what was your next thought of like, you did your garden and then you started getting your business running. But obviously, it always seems like we have one client quite quickly and then it takes longer to get more clients. So what has it been like now to scale that business for you to be able to create maybe a bigger offering or reach more people beyond just doing, one-to-one clients? So where are you at now?
Great question. And actually, that's kind of been a bit of a journey for me. So I've been doing this full time now 3 years. For about the first year and a half, I was doing it part time while I was still working in corporate America. Um, and we can explain about how that pivot happened later, but whenever you want. But anyway, how to scale was a real challenge. So um, I actually started this business, of course, when we were going through a pandemic, and lots of people were very interested in their food sources, sustainability, organic. Where's my food coming from? And so I happened to be very fortunate that I became passionate about this subject, and at the same time as everybody else was. And so it wasn't difficult for me to convince people why they needed my services. That wasn't an issue at all. The issue was, A, how do I tell people about my services? And then quite frankly, how do how do I manage the scale? Because I again, when I started off, I was just doing it part time, and then when I decided to pivot and do it full time, when I was just doing it part-time, I was just doing installations. So I was only doing design and installations. But I saw that there was a huge need for people that spent a significant amount of money to have one of my custom gardens put in. And then they would like just throw up their hands and be frustrated because they didn't know what to do. The analogy I give is when you have a baby, the nurses are in the hospital and they're helping you like those first 2 days and then, or however many days or 2 minutes now, I don't even know how long it is anymore, but they're helping you. And then all of a sudden they hand you this baby and they say, go raise this person to be a human being. And you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Same thing with the garden. I was building these beautiful gardens. I was planting them up with the client, depending on what time of year we were planning up, the cool garden, the summer garden, or whatever. And then I basically would say, bye-bye, see ya. And they would throw up their hands in frustration and they would go to the internet and go down the rabbit hole and trying to find all this information out, and it's not exactly applicable to them. So I stayed in that sort of lane for a while because I just didn't have the bandwidth to do more. But as soon as I had the bandwidth to go full time doing this, quite frankly, I needed to come up with a business model that was going to be recurring revenue. So I've got these big pops when I do an installation. It's a significant pop, but I don't do them, every week. So I needed to come up with, recurring revenue. And so that's when I came up with my coaching program. So I uh, basically introduced that to my existing clients, and they all basically said, yes, 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 I want you to coach. So now my challenge is to, I've made a conscious decision to only have a finite number of coaching clients. And so now my dance is, how do I create like a waiting list, sort of a sense of urgency, a scarcity. Is a very clever and effective marketing tool, because then people are like really in a panic to get on my list. So it's been quite a learning curve, quite honestly. And most people would say, well, Sarah, why don't you just hire somebody? I've made a conscious decision at this season of my life. I don't want to have to manage anybody else's life. I really don't want to hire anybody. I have a crew that I hire my crew, but they're not even, it's like a landscape company that I contract with, but I don't have any employees, 1099s or anything, because I just made a decision that I don't want to. And so I have purposely am holding back my business. I could be much busier. But again, at this phase of my life, I want to be able to travel. I want to have flexibility and do things with my husband, who's almost retired.
Okay, so so glad you brought that up, because we often feel that pressure that when we do something that we have to keep taking it to the next level, and that it's never just enough to be like, no, I'm really happy with the level I'm at now and I like this and it feels good and I get to do the stuff that I love. In fact, one of my closest friends is having that exact problem where she does, I won't even mention the work she does, but she loves her work, and it's very hands-on for her. And then she started working with a business partner and they keep on a level, no, we should do this and then we got to hire this people. And she goes, yeah, but the more I become management, the less I get to do what I really like to do.
I know.
So, and then it becomes like, am I just sabotaging my own success because I don't want to take it to that other level of having to manage people? And I totally get that, because as solopreneurs, you're like, well, I do a lot of the work myself. But even for me, a lot of that is really the fun work. Like, I love creating social media strategies for clients. I love being the ones that is helping them to create content. And if I were to keep, adding more people and then I just become, the person writing the checks, I don't get to do any of the fun stuff.
I know. And I love my clients so much. My coaching program is a year long. So, I start with them right when I build their garden, and then I visit them once a month for an entire year. So I jokingly say, before we get started on this, you better make sure you like me, because we're going to be together once a month. And, I get to know their spouses. I get to know their children, their pets, their, what's going on in their lives, good, bad, weddings, funerals, all this type of stuff. I really am doing life with these people, and it just fills me up so much. I can't even tell you how joyful it is. And again, if somebody were to say, well, Sarah, why don't you give 50%? Why don't you take twice as many clients and give 50% of them to somebody else? Well, then I'm missing out on 50% of the joy. So I
Yeah.
just decided, I make enough money to make me feel like I am a successful solopreneur. solopreneur, and I can check that box. And that's all I'm looking for at this phase of life.
Yeah, and you put it perfectly. Like you at this phase of your life, you're like, this fulfills me and makes me feel good and I get to do fun stuff. So this is great. And I love that because I'm the same exact way. And in the gardening thing, okay, I'm glad you mentioned that you did hire some maybe extra landscapers, as you put it, for some of these installations. Because I was looking on your Instagram, and because I do garden myself, I also know how much physical labor this
Oh yeah.
stuff takes. And I was like, how is she getting all this done herself? Makes perfect sense that you do actually have a landscaping team that you work with to do these because
Yes.
digging in the dirt is hard work.
Oh, it is. It is. But yes, truth be told, the analogy that I give is that it's like I'm the architect. If you're building a house, the architect doesn't take out the hammer and start hammering the nails. The architect takes the plans and gives this to a contractor, who then the contractor has his labor to do it. That's exactly what I do. I have a landscape company that he's got a crew that he actually built my own garden for me 5 years ago. And so he's I call him boots on the ground. I basically am there when I kick the project off. I do all the design and everything. Don't get him involved until I've got a contract with the client. So I've got a contract and a deposit with the client. Then I bring him in, introduce him to the client, and then I'll pop over, obviously the kickoff day, the day the project begins. We're there together mapping it out. I make sure he understands exactly the scope. Um, but he and I have done, like, I don't know, 50 projects now. So he and his crew know exactly how I like it done. So I don't have to be there all day, every day. I just pop in and out, and check and make sure things are going well. But it's been a terrific partnership, and I trust him, and his crew loves doing it. So it's great.
Definitely. And when you have people of that level, it's definitely having the right person for the right job. And also, maybe, as a matter of safety, having the person who could do it in the safest manner,
Oh,
because
yeah.
we are not always all set up to do things that we think we should be doing. Now, I teased you earlier in our little pre-chat that we need to talk about garden safety. And
Okay.
specifically,
Please,
when
y'all
you
got it on the pins
decide
and needles.
when you decide to garden, it's, you think to yourself, I need the right tools. I'm going to offer this up to you, and you tell me if I'm right. The number one gardening tool that you need are garden gloves.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, true. Did you cut yourself or run into some bad pest or something, or what happened?
Oh, girl, it was a little worse. So I'm going to share this with everyone out there. So I have been gardening for years, and I'm going to tell you right now, I rarely wear gardening gloves because I think, whatever, I can stand a little scratches. Now, I'm in Southern California. We have a lot of succulents. We have cactuses and things like that. I actually have a gigantic agave that I have to trim and maintain and everything. And I do it myself. And I learned years ago that thing is razor sharp and can really hurt you. So I'm super careful about it, around it. But other things in my garden, I feel like I am stronger than you. So the other day, Sarah, I go out because we have had an explosion of foxtails in my area because we got rain this year. And
Okay.
I have a dog, and a lot of my neighbors have dogs. And you know how dangerous foxtails are for animals.
No, I don't. They,
Oh, foxtails are this weed, and it literally looks like a fox's tail. And when they dry out, their little spiny ends can get embedded in
oh,
dogs and
oh, I
cats.
thought you meant like if they ate them. No, no, no. I see what you mean.
Well,
Like
no.
birds.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just get
okay.
embedded. So I
Yeah.
decide I'm going to go out and clean this area out myself without wearing gloves. And I managed to get several foxtails stuck in my hand, which I just pop out, wash my hands, think it's fine. And 2 days later, I am in the ER with a
Oh, dear.
bacterial infection. I have cellulitis in my finger. My fingers have turned purple.
Oh my gosh, that's
And
so
I am sitting
dangerous.
there in the ER saying, I don't know what's wrong. And the nurse immediately looks at me and she's like, Girl, you have cellulitis. It's a bacterial skin infection. What have you been doing? And my friend who I was texting said, Have you been gardening lately? And I immediately said, No, I haven't been doing anything. And then I remember the foxtails and I'm like, Oh. So
It's
anyone
really
listening,
dangerous.
as you're starting your gardening projects or you want to start, please wear gloves because, yes, I just ended up in the ER because I just refused to wear gloves. Anyway, I did just buy myself a lovely pair of extra strength gardening gloves, but I thought it was very timely that now I'm talking to the master gardener about gardening. And here I was in the ER because I was a sloppy gardener.
Well, you know what? True confession time. I have a plethora of gloves, all kinds of different gloves. I I start off every day with my gloves on, and I never end with them on because it's hard for me to be really nimble with them on. But the crazy thing is I really can't stand having soil underneath my fingernails. So I'm kind of in the wrong line of work for that thing, but it's a battle that I have every day. But the good news is I don't have to waste money anymore on manicures because that's absolutely worthless.
Oh yeah, if you guys are watching video, I never manicure my fingers. I'm all natural girl, just like you. But you teased us a couple minutes ago about being in corporate America and what that looked like to leave it. Just speaking to you now, you sound like you really understand project planning. You come from a high level of strategy. I'm guessing you were doing something in project planning or management in your corporate job. So what was that, and what did that transition look like for you?
Oh boy. Whoo, quite a story. So my entire career, I always have been I was in marketing, a lot of project management. I did do a little bit of work in the nonprofit space, but ultimately was at a high level. I was an account manager for a large residential, multifamily residential internet provider. Anyway, um, I just always really, my mind just works very strategically. It's very easy for me to figure out how to get to A to B and, all that type of stuff. And it was a great career. And a little bit of a backstory. So my husband is a serial entrepreneur. And so for the last X number of years, carried the medical insurance for us. So I worked in corporate America because we needed the insurance. And the idea had always been that we're basically going to stay in that lane until 65 when we can get Medicare. Okay. So I was happy to do that, which is the reason why I was, dabbling in gardening, but still working full time and was able to do it very successfully. I didn't feel like I ever shorted my company. They got their 40 hours a week and then some out of me, but then I just was able to garden on the weekends, evenings, blah, blah, blah. Well, that was exactly what the plan was going to be. And at age 63 and a half, I'm sitting on the beach in Mexico, Christmas week. I just had my second mimosa when I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize, but I recognized the area code was the same area code as lots of people I work with. And so I didn't answer the phone, but I listened to the voicemail, and this guy says, "Hey, Sarah, this is blah, blah, blah. I really need to talk to you." And I sent him a text back and said, "Hey, I'm sorry, I'm on PTO. I don't have very good internet connection, but I'm going to be back in the office." This was like on a Wednesday. "I'm going to be back in the office on Friday. Go ahead and put something on my calendar. I'm happy to talk to you on Friday." Now, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, I was in the process of negotiating a really large, very high visibility renewal with a client. And I was the account manager. And I naively thought that he was trying to put together some forecasts or some information for his, beginning of the year update or blah, blah, blah. And I thought he was just going to ask me some information about, nuances of this contract that I'm negotiating. So he's like, "No, I'm sorry. I really need to talk to you." And I turned to my husband and I said, "I think I'm getting fired." And my husband's like, "Why on earth would you be getting fired? I mean, you've got blah, blah." And I said, "I don't know. I can't figure out why he needs to talk to me right now." So I go back to the hotel room and I call him and he says, "Hi, this is blah, blah, blah. Thanks for calling. I know you're on PTO. Here, I want to have you talk to human resources." And right then and there, they fired me. Christmas week at age 63 and a half. Hello, corporate America. Thank you very much. They were doing a downsize, and my department needed to various departments had to cut headcount. I to this day, I don't know why they chose me. I was like the most senior person in the department, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to, dislocate my shoulder trying to pat myself on the back. But I was stunned, devastated, horrified, mad, sad. I mean, you name it. I just couldn't even believe it. So I had not like even updated a resume in 1,000 years. I'd been in the industry for so long, and I just kind of moved around within the industry and never really had to update a resume or anything. And I came home and I literally was like having anxiety. I couldn't even imagine updating my resume. It's like, and at this age, going out and interviewing for a job, on Zoom, I've got gray hair. I'm going to be probably interviewing with people that are like 23. I just couldn't even believe it. And in the back of my mind, I kept on thinking about this thing that I wanted to scale, that I wanted to be able to implement a coaching program. And that if I could get this coaching program to take off, I could get the recurring money that I needed, because I got a paycheck every month from my corporate job. And I also realized that because of Cobra, I had 18 months runway of insurance. So my severance package basically covered my insurance expense. And so I said to my husband, and he doesn't really like the way I say this because it's not like he was telling me you can't do it, but obviously I was like, I just said, honey, can you give me like a 6 month runway and see if I can scale quickly? If I can scale quickly and get the, some recurring revenue coming, we've got our insurance covered by Cobra. Let me just see what happens for 6 months. And if it doesn't work, then I'll brush up my resume and I'll go out and look for something. And 2 days later, I happened to book the largest piece of business that I had ever done, which constituted for like the biggest project and coaching client combined that I'd ever done like the whole year before. It was like 60% of what I had done before. By January 5th, I'd already had booked that piece of business. And I just felt like the divine intervention was saying, yes, Sarah, it's time for you to do this. And I just never looked back. I did it and I never looked back. It was miraculous and shocking all at the same time.
I absolutely believe in right time, right place kind of stuff. I am a huge believer in law of attraction. And so I love that your story that you were actually already developing this idea before you even got fired, right? So you had started
Yeah.
doing the gardening, right? So
Well,
you,
yeah.
yeah,
I'd seen this need for the coaching, but there was no way I could implement it when I was still working full time.
yeah.
And I really kind of felt guilty because I felt like I was doing a disservice to my clients that I wasn't able to help them more, but I just didn't have the bandwidth. And, I just quickly stood up and shouted from the rooftops, I've got time now. Who wants me?
You're like, I am available. Yeah, I mean listen, that job did you a favor by letting you go because you would have just hung on and listen, these really every day is the best day of our lives. People don't understand. It's like it doesn't matter your age. We don't know how much longer any of us are going to be here. So you can't sit there and be like, oh, 5 years down the line. And that took a really long time for me to even, accept because being in LA and there being so many different opportunities for different kinds of jobs, even though I have kind of been in and out of corporate, I've always felt that kind of draw of like, oh, I've got to get the 9 to 5 job. Otherwise, I don't have any security. And I will just let you know personally, I was also fired a couple of years ago. And I also got that call when they were like, oh, hey, we need to talk to you. And I think it's one other thing. And I get on the Zoom call and they're like, here's HR. And I'm like, what the?
Okay. No kidding. I mean, there's nothing that prepares you for that.
No.
Nothing.
And I'm like, you're firing me?
I
I
know.
am amazing. Are you insane?
I
Um,
literally said to the person, because I'd never even met this person in HR before, I said, are you sure you have the right person?
yeah.
I mean, I was so shocked.
Yeah, it's like the shock is there, but also like you, or I don't know how dissatisfied you were with. I hated the job that I got fired from. Like I hated it. So as soon as I got off the phone, I was so relieved and so happy. And I immediately called my partner. I'm like, guess what? I am out of that job. And I did get a really nice severance package, but I mean, I would have just hung on for the money like other people because I was
Yeah.
getting paid a lot. So divine intervention, the universe steps in, says, here is now your time to now help more people and perhaps be a coach and do other things. So, as you are in the process of like, okay, now I have the time, I can scale it more. What was the next step then for you? Because you have your installations, you can offer like what we'll call like maybe the membership monthly service kind of thing. How are you then like balancing the needs of what your clients are and then keeping it to the level, like you said, of being able to do the fun stuff all the time? How do you manage that?
Oh, Stephanie, you are such good questions. This is a great one. Well, at first I literally couldn't. I didn't even really know how to do the math. Like I had no idea how much to charge. I didn't know what the market would bear and all that type of stuff. So I knew what my clients needed from a monthly standpoint. And I also knew that I didn't want to do like virtual or online coaching. There's a ton of that. I felt like my sweet spot was this personal one-on-one time that I have with them in their garden. I also had a relationship with a greenhouse that grows all the little plant seedlings for me. And I did the math and I figured out that I could provide my clients all their plants that they need. We basically flip the garden 3 times a year, depending on the seasonality, and that I could buy those plants very inexpensively at wholesale and bundle it And so I started off at a price that is now a third of what I charge. Um, yeah, so I've raised my prices twice. And quite frankly, it sounds ridiculous, but I swear I could raise them again because there's nobody doing this. And so I charge by the size of the garden, the square foot of the growing space. And it's basically I take the square foot of the growing space, multiply it by a rate, and then divide it by 12. And so they give me a credit card and I just bill them monthly, just like your lawn service. Like if you have that at your house, just your lawn service just comes and you get billed for it. So I started doing that and realized, I think I could raise my prices more. I think I could raise my price a little bit more. Then it got to the point with people with really huge gardens, it was a ridiculous amount of money. And it's like, I'm not doing that. So that's when I just decided that I'm going to cap it at right now, I have 25 full-time clients. And that's my monthly recurring, that's my bread and butter, that I have coming in every month. And then I've got these nice pops. I do at least one, if not two, large installations a month. And so that's a different revenue stream, and it's like a nice pop of money that comes in. But it's not my bread and butter, if you will. Did that answer your question?
Oh, you absolutely did. And again, the whole thing about gardening is it's even if we're watching something online, we the in-person need is always so different, and that's what I found with my own home gardens, like I said, with the growing the tomatoes and figuring out like how much I really needed to water in my area. So when you're working with your clients, like these 25 clients, are you just coming in and doing their garden for them, or you're actually showing them how to garden?
Great question. No, I'm not. I tell them clearly I'm not doing maintenance because I only go once a month. And so you clearly cannot have a thriving garden if you only have somebody doing maintenance once a month. So it's very interesting. They now, after a couple months, they kind of learn the way it works. But I spend up to an hour with them, and we basically go through every single plant in their garden and we talk about, is this doing well? What's the issue? Why is this pepper plant not growing very well, but this one over here is doing really well? How often are you fertilizing? What's your watering schedule like? How do you know when it's time to harvest a beet or a carrot? How do you know where to plant kale versus lettuce versus broccoli versus tomatoes? Where to plant it, when to plant it, all those little nuances. So I basically am teaching them in 12 bite-sized pieces how to successfully garden year round. So once a month, I'm there. Like today, after we talk today, I have two clients I'm going to go spend time with. And this one, she's new. She's got her irrigation system on a timer, and she, for the life of her, can't figure out how to set the timer. Well, I'm going to go figure out how to set the timer, but then I'm going to teach her. I want her to know how to adjust her timer because I'm going to say to her, when it gets to be 90 degrees, you need to be watering more. And she needs to understand how to do that. Just like feeding your baby, you need to know how to heat up the bottle. So I hold their hand, but I don't do it for them. We all learn better when we get our hands in there and doing it than just watching somebody or listening to somebody.
Oh, for sure. I'm definitely one of those hands-on learners as well. I really like to have like a teacher in front of me showing me stuff and actually being involved in the process. So you're really more about educating your clients about, really good practices and things like soil health
Yeah.
and things like that. So are all the plants that you are planting with your clients, are they all edible garden plants, what we call the sustainable kitchen garden?
Yes, foodscapes. So even the flowers that I put into my clients' gardens are edible. So everything that's in their raised beds is edible. Yes, and it's all sustainable. And I only use organic and sustainable practices for pest and disease control also. So I'm teaching them about, if some clients, they see one tiny little hole in a basil leaf and they freak out and they think that they have to treat the entire garden. And I'm like, no, 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 no. First, let's just pick that leaf off and see tomorrow when you check on it, does it look like it's been having any more pest pressure? I like to practice the less is more approach. And so I get the fact that sometimes we need to treat things, but I'm also trying to teach them, if they set their garden up properly for success with herbs and intensive planting and companion plants and all that, you really, really should minimize the pest pressure. And I can prove it myself. I have over the years, I really, really learned the way to plant up my garden. So I rarely, knock on wood, have to use any type of product on my food.
Yeah, and you know what? For me, learning that there was something called companion plants was like mind blowing. Like,
I
I'm like,
know.
oh, I didn't even know that you could plant that. And then you wouldn't have this problem. Because again, being in Southern California, it's warm all the time. I have a lot of pest problems around here. There constantly seems to be something blowing into my garden area that I'm like, what is that now? So it's been kind of like a big learning curve, I feel, on my side because I'm like, I always feel like there's something else. In fact, I will mention I was just watching one of your Instagram videos where you were talking about how to deal with this powdery mold, it
Yeah,
was
powdery mildew, powdery mildew. Uh-huh.
powdery mildew. So I was watching that Instagram and I was like, oh my God, that's so amazing. So, which also led me to want to talk to you about how you've been using social media to really get the word out about your services and also continue to educate your clients because you're using it as a teaching aid as well. So, has
Yeah.
been social media been your most effective way to attract clients, or has it become more of word of mouth now because you have such a strong client base in your area?
I really can attribute three different lanes that I get my clients from. I certainly do with social media. I post something every single day, and it's tips and tricks of, what am I doing in my garden? If it's happening in my garden, it could be happening in somebody else's. I by no means, as you can tell if you looked at any of my posts, I am not a social media wizard. I am very unprofessional, lots of ums and ahs and slurs. And, I mean, it's just me out in the garden. And sometimes I might have myself made up, and other times I'm sweaty and whatever, but it's like, oh, I need to stop and tell people that this is a great thing that you need to do. So I do post on Instagram. Believe it or not, my son just rolled his eyes when I told him this. I recently have gone on to TikTok, and it's crazy how fast my followers has grown on TikTok. It's ridiculous. And I don't really think that my age demographic is on TikTok, but I'm not doing it to get business. I'm doing it literally to help people learn how to garden more sustainably. So social media, definitely for sure. I really don't do much on Facebook at all. I also word of mouth, of course, is great. Our little town has been, really, really great as far as that goes. So word of mouth works out well. I also once a month I participate at no cost at our farmers market. Our little community has got a very happening farmers market. It's the place to be on Saturday mornings. There's live music and all this kind of stuff going on. And once a month, I just set up a table, and it's like stop by and ask the garden coach anything. And people come by and ask me questions. And then I sign them up for my email list. And I've gotten quite a few clients that way. And then recently, believe it or not, I have become a quoted expert on some national publications. And Martha Stewart actually has recently quoted me a few times. And I actually have a client that I always ask people, how did you find me? And she said, I read your article in Martha Stewart. And I was like, oh my gosh, you did? I can't believe that. I mean, it was very fun. So I am sometimes picked up as a garden expert in some national publications. And so I get a little bit of pickup with those too.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, listen, if Martha Stewart says you're doing it right, I mean, the home garden queen herself, I've always been
No,
a
I know
fan of her work.
it's a bit humbling. It's a bit humbling, believe me.
I'm sure. So I love that you're still, doing the community stuff by reaching out to these farmers markets. I go to my farmers market every week. I love talking to the actual people, the growers and the home gardeners and things like that. So let's get into some fun questions here.
Okay.
Tell me what is the number one gardening myth? Sorry, let me say that again. Tell me what's the number one gardening myth that you want to debunk?
Um, I guess I guess I would consider this a gardening myth, but it's definitely a sustainability myth that eating local pollen helps with your allergies. It doesn't. It doesn't. And also, there's no such thing as organic honey. How does a bee know if it's an organic flower or not? So those are two myths that if you want to eat local pollen, that's fantastic, but it's not going to do anything for your allergies. And if you want to pay extra money for organic honey, that's fine, but I think it's better just to buy it at your local farmer's market. The stuff in the grocery stores is not even real honey. So I'm a beekeeper also, so maybe that's why went down that rabbit hole. But those are two things that I tell people all the time when they say, "Oh, I've heard, local honey." Isn't that funny?
That is funny. That's not something I've ever heard about the local pollen thing.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people say if you eat local honey with local pollen, it'll help your allergies.
Crazy.
Yeah. Oh
Okay,
well.
so tell me, what is your most favorite vegetable to grow?
Oh gosh. I have so many favorites. I'd say that my favorite one to grow because it is so stinking easy and prolific and is cut and come again. So the more you harvest it, the more it grows. Lettuce. Lettuce is absolutely a no-brainer to grow. It grows in the cool seasons, so it's not going to grow in the middle of summer, which is unfortunate, but it grows in the cool seasons. And I'm telling you, Stephanie, you just open up a packet of seeds and you just throw them on good quality soil and water it, and you will have, within like 2 weeks, you'll see lettuce that you can start eating. It is so easy to grow. So, lettuce I love. But my most fun thing to grow is a loofah. Now, you probably think that a loofah comes from the ocean, right? Guess what? It doesn't. A loofah is a gourd, and it's actually it looks like a great big gigantic long cucumber that grows on a very prolific vine. They grow like crazy. They take 9 months, the same length of time as a baby to grow. It takes a loofah to grow. And it's a green um, gourd like this. Now this is dried, okay? So you take it off and you dry it, and hear that? There's all the seeds inside of it. So you peel off this skin and you wash it and it becomes this sponge. Isn't that crazy? It's the best story ever. Mind blowing.
You just literally blew my mind. Yes, I thought loofah was from the ocean. I had no idea it was a gourd. I totally did not expect that response. I love it so much. I feel like we have just got a world exclusive that needs to be told to everyone because that is amazing to me. See, there's so
Okay.
much in our gardens that we don't even know where stuff comes from or how stuff is made. I didn't know that. I did, but
Yeah.
Sarah,
Well, in the in
you have
the
taught me.
the Asian culture does actually eat this. It's like they stir fried, I think. But I've never actually eat it. It's kind of slimy, I think, actually. But just so you're clear, this is a loofah gourd. This is a sea sponge. They look the same, but it's not. They both are called loofahs.
Okay, so if you guys aren't watching the video version on this over on YouTube and you're just listening to the audio, you are going to have to go and find that part of our conversation so you can see what Sarah's just holding up because you literally just blew my mind, taught me something I didn't know. This conversation, Sarah, has been so much fun. I knew we were going to have a ton to talk about. And yes, I'm sitting here now saying, I wish that I lived in North Carolina because I would hire you in a heartbeat. I have so many things that I've been trying to do that some have worked, some have failed. Sometimes I end up in the ER. And I think you could just save us all a lot of trouble. So tell everyone who's listening where they can find you online and how they can contact you.
Oh, it's been really, really fun, Stephanie. Thank you so much for just this great conversation. And I wish you lived closer too. I'd love to hang out with you and grow with you. But my company's name is Seed to Sanctuary. www.seedtosanctuary.com. You can find me on Instagram, seed the number 2 sanctuary. And on Facebook, it's just Seed to Sanctuary. So I'd love to have anybody follow me if you want tips and tricks, and reach out to me if there's any questions that you have, and let you know what, let's just all grow something more. My challenge for each of you is to try and eat something out of your garden. It could be a pot on your patio or it could be a big garden. I challenge you to eat something 365 days a year that you grew, and I'm going to give you the easiest way to do that. Grow chives. Chives are so easy to grow. Or mint also. And in the middle of winter here in February in North Carolina, when there's hardly nothing growing, I can still go outside, pick some chives, throw it in an omelet, and I have eaten something green and fresh that day.
Well, Sarah, I'm going to take that challenge because I will let you know in the past, I have not done very well with herbs, but I'm going to try the we're going to call it the chive challenge.
Good.
We're going to make it viral on Instagram, the
Okay.
chive challenge. And I'm going to let you know where I end up by the end of this year with my chives. But thank you so much for all of your wisdom, all of your experiences, all of your stories. It has been a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you for the work that you're doing, helping people become more sustainable and being able to really, really seize their passion.
Thanks for listening to the Wild Party Podcast. If you're an entrepreneur or professional who would like to be on this podcast, please visit boomtownmarketing.com and click on podcast. We believe that every business has the potential to change the world for good, and we want to support our community to help make the world more ethical, compassionate, and sustainable for all future generations to come. And if you're looking to build your business, no matter what level you're at now, request your free marketing consultation at boomtownmarketing.com and click Get Started.